to a year
Yeah,
later.
they've been.
Who's keeping track of all these? I mean, it's hard for me, and like I said, I'm just wondering. If,
We do have a vehicle inventory list,
Yeah.
okay.
an all-inclusive list for
Right.
each department. We have one of those.
Okay.
It coincides with our insurance. So we have that, but we also added duties to Jerry's. We took a few duties away from Jerry, and we added them. That's one of the reasons we hired Cassidy,
Yeah.
and gave her more of a fleet management role.
Right.
Good.
And so they're finally, even with the cars for upfitting with the cameras, they had to wait to get pieces parts to upfit all
That's
the
what I'm
cars.
saying.
So that was a supply.
Yeah, supply. Not yeah, not them. That's
But
it's delayed
it's
months
just been
for a lot of things.
ongoing.
Yep.
So, all right, thank you. All right. In accordance with Section 305.30K of the Ohio Revised Code and this board's resolution 21-0396 and this board's resolution 21-0878, the Board of Commissioners acknowledges and approves the county administrator's approval to. I'll make a motion to direct the auditor's office to pay process the March 23rd, 2023 bills, ACH payments, wires, journal vouchers, and then and nows as applicable, contingent upon the verification of the reports as presented by the county auditor and reviewed by the Department of Budget and Financial Management.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Sabrina?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to process the March 23rd, 2023 budget amendments as reviewed and recommended by the Department of Budget and Financial Management.
Second.
Roll call.
Sabrina?
Yes.
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the cash advance from Fund 0001 General Fund to Fund 1166 EMPG Homeland Security Grant.
Second.
Roll call.
Sabrina?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the cash advance from Fund 0001 General Fund to Fund 1170 Emergency Response LEPC CERP.
Second.
Roll call.
Sabrina?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to transfer funds from 0001 General Fund to Fund 092 Board of Elections Chargeback.
Second.
Roll call.
Sabrina?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes. Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.
I believe. Could you check with Tammy?
Morning.
Good morning, Tammy.
Good. All right. All right. We got discussion items. You want
Yes.
to do that?
All right, so I know a couple weeks back we talked about, or I presented possibly of doing the employee appreciation and doing the floating holiday.
Mm-hmm.
So, you guys had asked me to kind of go back, kind of look and research, do some things. So what I did find out is last year when we did do the floating holiday, 29 departments did participate in that, which kind of was over 550 people actually took advantage of.
How many departments do we have total?
40, 42? I'm not sure.
How come the other ones didn't?
I don't
No?
know. I don't know. Unless they didn't code it under the floating holiday and they use maybe a paid
Just gave
admin
paid
day.
paid absent.
I don't
Personal
know
day.
because everyone
Yeah.
handles their payroll sometimes independently differently.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
All right.
but what I have, pulled from there, that's what I got. So,
Okay.
but it, it did kind of do some research, talk to some different people from different departments. They all said that the employees really did appreciate the day off. They felt that it really meant something from you guys, that was something that was given to them. So staff were very appreciative and actually thanked, hiring managers and department heads and stuff on that. In the past, we have done like the tickets to Ravenna 7. That happened in 2021. That only really impacted 235 people out of all of ours. So not everyone got that benefit. Again, I think the pros and cons of that is not everyone lives in town or attends the Ravenna 7, or or they only receive one ticket and they like to take their whole family. So it was kind of that kind of stuff.
Amy, would you close that window?
And then we've also had cookouts in 2017, 2018, and 2019. And those involved, the hamburgers, hot dogs, and departments would come to one location. And I do think we did send out some food at the outlining ones that affected maybe different shifts and stuff like that.
That one was
numbers-
very labor intensive, and plus, the problem with that is we've got like the sheriff's department. That's a 24/7 operation.
Yep.
And so
And same as like JDC, same thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
a lot of them, I know it was harder to do that. Plus,
Yeah.
it's just labor intensive for our staff on that
Yeah,
one. So.
yeah, a lot of legwork on that. We did donuts for several years before that, 2014 through 2016. But at that time, also looking at our budget for what in the employee appreciation for that budget line, in my thingy, it was like $250 was it for the year. So that's probably why the donuts were probably the idea. So, but yeah, we've done bigger events years before that. Did a casino night back in 2009. We did Cleveland Indians with bus rental and tent rental. That was an event that almost cost $10,000 back in 2008. And the Jogga Lake, and we did like a dinner out, like an evening with just like adult evenings. It looks like every other year they did like a family event, and then they did an adult event. Is kind of what it looks like back from 2004 through 2010. They kind of switched it every other year. So
Question: when we do the day off, can I, if I don't take the day off, could they get shoes? Get paid for that day off, or is it you take the day off or not?
No, I don't think it was. No, the way we set it up last year was it was a day off at the discretion of the employer. It was not to create overtime, so it didn't really cost us. And that's really, we had done a survey. I don't know if you found that, and that's what most staff wanted. And I remember last year, that's the thing that we got the most like feedback on. I mean, just from employees and stuff. And you know, going forward with the workforce, everyone's saying people want more time off. They're having a hard time getting people to work overtime and stuff. So
yeah, no, I do think there is a different mindset with our current workforce, and appreciation of having time off is definitely very much appreciated at this point.
I wanted to think about it for a little bit, and I did, and I've spoke to some employees, and I'm leaning towards the day off. I think that that's important, and that's what they want. And let's make it twofold, something for them and something they want.
Yeah.
And you know, Mike, that's a good point. And the fact of the matter is, I've been involved in a lot of these, and especially the cookout ones. They're very labor intensive. It's really hard, like I said, for like sheriff's departments and stuff like that. It's 24 hours. I mean, who wants a cold hot dog from 10 hours ago?
Correct.
So the thing that we got the most feedback, less labor intensive for our HR department. That's very small compared to what we cover. And the fact that it can't cost overtime. It's at the discretion of the employer. They have to use it or they lose it.
Right.
So it's sort of a win-win, I think.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of line staff that are, working the roads and things like that. So and working in major projects at Water Resources and, in the engineers department.
And to work weekends or on
right,
call
so it's
and
like
stuff.
to stop and go and get their hot dog and hamburger is kind of difficult.
Since we brought the sheriff's office up, did they participate last year in the day off?
Feeling like part of their staff did, which would have been like some of their clerical staff.
Office staff, not the guys
Correct.
and
Yeah.
girls on the road.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, because that would probably be more union. I don't know. The other thing is with the day off, I just think that, with today's workforce, like Michelle brought up, I mean, that's what more and more people are seeking. They really value
Yeah,
their
they value
time off.
away. Yeah.
So,
I would, may I?
Please.
I do think we should extend it to each union member as well.
Yes.
Because this is coming from an employee appreciation standpoint. It's not an extra personal day.
It shouldn't be
It's not really a
union.
floating holiday.
and-
It's an employee appreciation
Correct.
day.
Yeah.
So it was my understanding that we did extend it to union
We did.
employees as
There
well.
was, I think, Job and Family Services. I know I saw, that showed up on the list. So there was plenty of staff that utilized that as well. So.
and so what I would like to do, if we do that, and then we'll still have that money in the
Yes.
pot for employee appreciation, I would like to do more, and we talked about this briefly. We just had a gal, actually Cole's mom, Friday is her 20-year anniversary with the county. I would like to do something nicer for employees throughout the county. Of course, she works for an elected official, and Patty Smith could do something, but, I think it just looks good from us, to to maybe put a little more into something for them.
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
know,
like
either a gift
milestone
card
stuff.
or something, a milestone.
Yeah.
For the people that are 5,
20,
10,
25.
15, 20.
That I have no problem with.
I think
Yeah.
Heather was working on that, getting some pricing
For
bring to the board.
for the
so.
for
For different milestone
Anniversaries.
anniversaries and for new employees, a
Correct.
welcome kit.
mhm.
So
Yeah,
she
so
might
we're
have
trying
some.
to
Besides
do
just a
some
little
different-
certificate.
That's right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
So we've
Okay.
got some new ideas that we're hopefully trying to bring forward.
okay. And then next you have job fair.
Yes, so I'm gonna we have a job fair we're gonna attend today at Ravenna High School. Before the job fair, the juniors and seniors, Ravenna High School is really forward thinking with their juniors and seniors, and of course coming to the end of their school year. They're doing an assembly on careers, so I'll actually do a little keynote speaking to the group, and then the students will come through the job fair, and then later at 3 to 6, the adults or the public will come through. So Heather and I will be at a table and hopefully trying to recruit some superstars. That's going to be our theme for
There you go.
our table this year. So we're excited.
Nice.
So, and then the last thing is, of course, the Kent State students. So we have the one student is coming in today to interview Mike and Michelle. I did email him early this morning to confirm that we're still on for that time slot. So I do appreciate your guys' time. And then, of course, next week, the other student will come in to interview Tony and Sabrina. So again, it's part of their overall project of what they need to do to
And we got
be
the list of
successful.
questions.
Yep,
that
they gave us a
okay.
list of questions. So
I
you guys
appreciate
have
that.
Yeah, absolutely. I learned a little bit from last group with us. You know, they were asking on the fly, and I could see all of our staff going, oh, you know. So I wanted to have them be a little bit more prepared, and I think they feel better too that they did a little bit more research and try to understand, because they are students. They're just trying to understand the complexity of government structure. So,
Okay.
so yeah, and
Thank you.
that's it.
Okay.
That's all my talking points.
All right. Thank you.
All right, in accordance with section 305.30 of the revised code, and this board's resolution 21-0396, part 9I, the Board of Commissioners acknowledges and approves the county administrator's approval to, I'll make a motion to approve the anniversary probationary step increase for the following non-bargaining employees: George Slavinsky, JFS, Janine DeLuca, JFS.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Sabrina?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes. Thank you, Tammy.
Thanks, Tammy.
Thank you.
Have a good day with that.
You're up. Good morning.
Our favorite. Okay.
How's everybody?
Good.
Good.
Still dressed for winter?
Yes.
A little chilly?
No, it's not. I don't. I was in Arizona. It wasn't any better.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I have something that I just got an email from this morning before I do my project updates from Dan Morgani, the land bank. He gave his starting April 5th. He's going to give us 30 days. He's moving on for rent because he has a month-to-month lease right now. So
Oh, he's not moving on. The department's moving.
yes,
Okay.
they're moving to a different
Yeah, I-
location. Sorry. Yeah.
You caught me off guard with
Sorry
that.
about that,
Okay, gotcha.
Here, Ian. And I'll try to remember this then. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
So I just have, just in the red, the admin building, I'm meeting with Matt Kelly to see what he wants to do tomorrow as far as their floor is concerned, because he talked about taking out some walls and such, so I want to get a better understanding of everything, of what he does want to do to renovate. And I'll let you guys know on that too. The main hallway is complete. The painting is all done.
Is there a water leak?
Yes, it's in the boiler system. They had to shut down the boiler.
I just happened to be walking down the hall when I heard water leak.
But we saw it. We caught it before it first did. Let's see. Replace main hallway floors. So I got a cost on that for the main hallway. It's the total project cost $34,000. But that included the bathrooms on that too. So the bathrooms, we've already had them cleaned professionally one time, and they still don't look good. If you guys wanna take a peek inside the public bathrooms, just
One
make
on the
it
main floor.
consistent. Yeah.
They've been there for a while, haven't they?
Oh yeah. But I figured while we were doing it and they were here, you might as well just kind of go into that area.
Mm-hmm.
So if you guys want me to proceed with that, you can let me know.
I think
Okay,
it'd
so
be. I
here we
think
go.
it'd be a good idea.
I think so too. So and they'll go up the sides for that for the terrazzo. They'll tape it off and stuff. So now the key is to that is it won't happen till Thanksgiving again because it has to have so much time
So
to
many
dry
days,
before
Secure.
they need that same time frame like they did ours.
Okay.
So, okay, so, all right, I'm gonna go see it. And then, I think Mike pointed out that the, part of the brick's falling apart, kind of on the outside by the entrance.
Yeah, and also at the main entrance.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Uh,
By the treasurer's office, or down by us.
down by us.
bullpen?
If you look, as you walk in, the cement between the brick is almost
The mortar,
totally
okay.
Oh,
gone.
okay.
We have to have it tuck pointed.
So,
If you look at this building, a lot of it kind of has to be tuck pointed. I mean, that's why you'll see leaks and stuff, but it's very, very expensive to do. I mean, one day maybe we'll get a cost to tuck point, like maybe a side at a time or something.
I can watch YouTube and do it.
What's that?
I can watch YouTube.
Okay.
I got one of those
alright,
little tubes
sold.
that you put concrete in and squirt it in.
Hey, I can give it a whirl.
All right.
Do that.
Okay. And then you also mentioned was to paint the doors going down the hallway or restaining the doors.
Restain the doors.
All of them. Okay.
Some of them might need replaced
Placed.
because they are wonky doors.
Yeah.
From the
I mean,
flooding.
some that are like half doors.
Yeah.
I look at where the land bank's at now. I mean,
Where they used to have like I think they used to take payments there at one time or
yeah,
something.
and the door is
And
like
some of the bottom is, you can see where it's wicked up. And
Yep. Yep. So okay, I'll probably have to get a cost on replacement, and then they'll probably just take them off the hinges one at a time, strip them.
It's starting to look very nice down there,
I know, and
and I don't
It's
want
like a ripple effect, right? You
Yeah.
fix one thing and then the next thing.
Yeah.
And that
That
should be
doors are
it
bad.
for that hallway when people are coming in.
Yeah, because
'Cause
we did the floor.
The paint and the all the door jambs look awesome.
What about the ceiling? I haven't looked at the ceiling.
Some of the
is that-
grids, yeah, it's just like they're $400 for a whole thing. That's why we're selective, but
Per
we can
box.
replace it per box. Yeah,
Just don't look
about
up.
12. Yeah.
I haven't actually.
So we have been slowly replacing ceiling tiles in
Yeah.
certain really bad areas as we've been
or where they
going
get
through.
leaks or something, but
Yeah, but we can. I mean, the guys can focus on that too, just to at least pop out some of the eyesore
maybe the
ones.
ones that had leaks. in
Yeah.
them.
Well, and the grid itself is pretty rusty. So if they're doing that, maybe they just do painting.
It is. It's
Mhm.
pretty bad.
You know, have you seen it?
Mhm.
No, I don't really look up very
I
much.
will.
I will though.
I renovated.
I'm going down
some.
right after the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
if we're on a roll,
No.
may as well get it, all of it.
Okay. Dog warden, his flooring is not good in their office area. It's all popped up everywhere. So we were gonna he'd like to do the same thing that we're doing in the hall, down the hallway, and that's 24,000 to do his area. It's 1,400 square feet. And then he was gonna do the
Yeah, that'll last a lot longer in that environment.
Yes, and they're gonna do that the week of Thanksgiving as well. So he's gonna have a 2-man
So
crew.
where are all these funds coming from?
The maintenance project funds. I
Aw.
know you love that.
I do. While we're spending money, where are these?
Okay, we got, we have for the Marks Towers, I set a new bid date for, April 19th. And this is the rebid because we didn't get any from the last one, but I've had actually 4 or 5 people reach out to me saying that they were going to, whether
Good.
they do or not,
Great.
I'm not sure. And then skip down to the Justice Center. The fencing around the parking lot, we're meeting with we had our meeting yesterday, so we were all on the same page. The concern was about fobbing, like how were we gonna get access to the gate? At first they wanted to do remotes, but they have an existing badging system, and they all have badges, so why wouldn't you just fob in with
Yeah.
your badge? But they also have something, cause it's tied into their security system, like where the jail is. They also have something where they don't actually have to touch it. They can, if it knows within a perimeter, so it'll just open with a keypad.
So if I have my badge in the car in my
You couldn't-
vehicle,
you
no,
couldn't
I'm talking
use it.
about them.
Yes.
Them.
Yeah, they have their badge.
They have their badge in
Yes.
vehicle. It'll just pick that up.
There'll also be like a call button too, in case what if they forget, or if they have deliveries, they have to
Or
have a
if
call
somebody's
button.
bringing someone to jail.
Or some, yeah, right.
Another-
So
Another
City.
department.
yeah, so they'll hit the call button and it goes to dispatch, and dispatch lets them in. So, that's all for that one. And then I'm going to the sinkholes done.
Yeah, right.
The Ravenna Courthouse project, This was actually a surprise for the probate court. We budgeted $500,000, and the architect believes it'll be $250,000.
Nice surprise.
That's
I know.
nice
So I keep my
Shazam.
fingers crossed for that one.
and rare.
Right. We did try to put in a budget just to put into place
Mhm.
so we could have the funds moved. Riddle Block Building, the roof replacement, the contractors actually got it this morning. It's all ready to go, so they'll give
Awesome.
me a date as to when they're gonna start on the roof for Riddle. The HVAC, the parent low came in yesterday. Now, this is just from yesterday. We haven't done any background checks on anybody, but it came in a little bit below, as you can see what the architect estimate was too.
Mhm.
So, we did have actually 2 bids for that one, and last time we had none, so.
Awesome.
That's all I have.
Excellent.
Ma'am, thank you very much. I really like these. I think
Oh,
we all
good.
like these. This is much easier to keep track.
Yeah.
All right.
And I just have, resolutions.
The Board of Commissioners approves plans and specifications and sets date for accepting bids for the Jones Road Bridge Replacement, PAL 106, TR 136 over Kale Creek in Palmyra Township, Portage County, Ohio.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Sabrina?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
The Board of Commissioners accepts bids for furnishing various sizes of storm sewer pipe for use by the Portage County engineer.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Sabrina?
Yep.
Mike?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
The Board of Commissioners accepts bids for furnishing corrugated metal bridge flooring and bridge replacement beams for use by the Portage County engineer.
Second.
Roll call.
Sabrina?
Yep.
Mike?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
The Board of Commissioners accepts bids for furnishing guardrail and curved end treatments by use by the Portage County engineer.
Second.
Roll call.
Sabrina?
Yep.
Mike?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
The Board of Commissioners agrees in a master service agreement with Portage County Water Resources and Utility Service, Inc.
Second.
Could we pause? Dan, did you want to say something about this?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to get into what it actually is.
Yes,
because I
please.
think it's
Come on up.
important for
Come on up.
everyone.
Yeah.
Barb, are you okay?
I was taking.
Because I feel like covering my face like that sometimes too. Just
The less I'm on the camera.
I was just curious. I want to make sure you're okay.
Thank you.
There should be 2 pages.
You got 2 pages? Yeah.
A color piece and then just the Ohio revised code.
And we don't have one for Michelle.
Am I missing one?
Michelle?
Oh, I'm sorry.
All good. Here, I'll give Michelle this.
That's all right.
I'll share with
Oh.
Tony.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's okay. Okay.
Go ahead.
Again, I thought this was an important enough thing where I needed to come in and just kind of explain what's going on.
Thank you
with
for coming.
this utility service group.
Yep.
Thank you. And, we have a lot of infrastructure within water resources, and one of the big ones are water tanks. And maintaining these water tanks is pretty labor intensive. They need to be washed out. They need to be inspected, according to EPA regulation. They need to be inspected, getting somebody to the top of the tank to look around.
How big are the tanks?
Each one is a different size.
Okay.
So, but some of them, go up to 150, 160 feet in the air. So trying to get crews up there is difficult. And then the next and more important part is the painting aspect of a tank. Whenever a tank is painted, the traditional process would be to bid that out. We would get the low bid, they would come in, they would paint the tank. Unfortunately, what we find or I've found in the past, is that after a couple of years, you start seeing spots appear on the tank where they missed the clear coat, and just things start going wrong, and those companies are long gone.
Gone. So low bid doesn't always work.
Not in this aspect, no. And so the first page has the Ohio Revised Code, which just shows that we can enter into an agreement with an asset management company. So that, without having to take it to bid. That would allow us to bring them in under a master service agreement, and then they would be contracted over a series of years, ideally 10. So that we can have them every year. They'll do different amounts of work. What we'd like to do is have them do the Shellersville tank the first year, the Brimfield tank the next year, paint that, and then we'll start them on a yearly maintenance project where they'll be cleaning tanks, taking them out of service, inspecting these tanks. And I've worked with this company in the past. They're very reputable. And one thing that I found is if there's anything wrong, with the painting, the inspection. If a random bullet hole shows up in the water tank, they will come out and they'll repair those, so they're on the hook for the work that they do, which
Excellent.
I really like. You know,
Yeah.
they're not gonna cut corners because at the end of the day, it only affects them.
Right.
So that's what generally the idea of this is. There's a schedule payment on that, the color-coded schedule there.
Mm-hmm.
And so that the first 5 years, the numbers are high because we'd like to paint 2 tanks. We believe that 2 are in need of being painted. The others are new enough that we don't have to worry about that for quite some time. So then after that year 5, the price drops down dramatically because at that point we'll have done all of the big work and everything else will just be maintenance and inspection services from that point
Okay.
forward.
Would it be extra to get my name put on one of them?
On the underside,
But
I can order you a stencil.
I'm just asking, okay?
on the base of one pillar, in small letters.
You know, that's what-
Hey,
Dang.
and you said about 150 feet high.
It depends. I mean, each tank, you know.
What's the highest one?
You know what, I'm not sure. I believe the highest one would be the Schillersville tank, and that's probably about 180 feet.
In the city of Aurora, for getting antennas up there, they make money off their towers.
And so there's issues with having antennas on top of towers because anytime you need to have them painted, you need to relocate those, and it's usually at the cost, depending on the contract with whoever you're working with. We could be potentially on the hook for removing those antennas
Okay.
and creating provisions for them,
Mhm.
especially cellular companies.
Mm-hmm.
That can cause a lot of logistical hoops. So generally, the less antennas I have on our towers, the happier I am.
Sold.
It costs us less money.
Just curious. Thank you. Thanks for coming in. I know I appreciate that.
Yeah, because we had no idea. I figured it was like a utility software or something that we were using for billing. So it's good that you came in.
And to me, it's a very exciting program. It's one, as soon as I mentioned it and brought it into Water Resources, they were all ecstatic. They were just like, oh.
Good plan.
Because, you know, they don't have to every year take something out the bid and create this nonstop.
That's why we hired you.
Shannon's happy about it.
I'm happy.
Yeah. And there's funding in your budget for that in the enterprise fund? Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
Awesome.
Okay. Oh, we have to pass
Need a
the
second.
resolution, right?
Roll call, please.
Sabrina?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you,
I
guys.
didn't know what we were talking about. Like, oh.
I know.
Miss Kelly Jo. Sue.
Mike, you can put Mike's name under the random bullet hole.
Yeah, there you go.
There's an idea. I'll put the bullet hole
Or
there.
around it. Yeah.
I'll do that.
That'll work.
You got it sold. Morning, ladies.
Morning.
Her seat was warm.
That's why she has that. She's got that. She's got that sweater.
Are we ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the first item I have on my open agenda is the January-February data report. Noting just some changes that you may have questions on, and of course I'll entertain any questions that I didn't highlight. On the first page, under the Public Assistance Division, I'm noting that we had an increase from January to February as far as our in-house drivers in Ohio Means Jobs, taking people for trips for employment training.
Yeah.
It went from 133 to 266.
I've heard a lot of people kind of like that.
Yeah,
It's beneficial.
it is. It absolutely is. And then with this year was the first time since the pandemic that we had a full manufacturing internship program. And so we're doing a lot of transports to the manufacturing companies, so it definitely helps in that space. So,
Okay.
yep, great need there, but a great service as well. Page 2, there were over 1,000 more calls that came into our customer service from January to February. We attribute that to a lot of the changes that are going on with the SNAP benefits and the Medicaid changes, individuals inquiring on how it's going to impact their lives. So we did entertain a lot more calls.
So because of the SNAP program, and we made that decision for that $1 million. what goes through my little brain lately as we've been going through this process, year 4,
In year 4,
yes.
what's
We have $1 million. We're talking about like $300,000 for 3 years, year 4.
Well, the hope would be in year 4 that the economy has stabilized, the workforce has stabilized, and those individuals have found permanent transitions to work or a benefit that if they're not able to work, then it's a Social Security disability. So our sincere hope as a human services system is that we're truly
That will be out of
stabilized. Yeah.
this kind of
Yeah.
little hole that we're
Yep,
in. right now.
absolutely. Because this all came on the need came on the heels of COVID.
Right,
Because of
right.
the unemployment and underemployment. So that's all of our hopes is that we
Yeah.
stabilize in the
Ex-
next couple
That,
years.
that's, I've been thinking about that for the last couple weeks,
Yeah.
and it's just like, if you give $1 million or $300,000 a year, that's hard to replace.
It is. I think it's incumbent on us as a community, maybe at year 2, to start, and we have the Emergency Food and Shelter Board that most of those funds are filtering through, that we start to communicate to the community that need decreasing in that span, so it's not a shock and all like
Right.
this SNAP reduction was. So I think we should be pretty intentional in a couple
Okay.
years on what that future looks like.
So do you already have plans or thoughts to begin to bring that thought forward to everybody?
I will put it as an agenda item
Yeah.
for our board members,
yeah.
so we can earmark that.
Everybody's thinking this is really good,
But
and
then,
I'm thinking about when it disappears, it could be really bad.
yep, I
If
can
it-
absolutely
yeah,
put that
I
on
would.
the next.
I'd like
one.
to see what y'all think
Okay.
about that.
Good conversation. Yep, I will do that. I did not have any significant changes in our workforce arena, except for on page 4, if you're seeing it the way I am. We're providing more services under the Ohio Means Jobs to our CCMEP, our Comprehensive Case Management Program for our youth, 14 to 24. So you see from a service, we went from 77 to 117. A little bit of a reduction. We're serving about 128 young people in the program, but still it's a thriving program nonetheless. So
Did you see the news this morning with that 330 Community Center down in Akron?
no,
LeBron James facility.
no, I did not know.
It's I went through it last week, and it's absolutely an incredible facility. And as pretty as it is, I mean, gorgeous. The kids that they had there, as we went through, they had kids all over the place. Young adults, some people probably in their 30s, 40s, but a lot of teenagers. They brought a hospitality management company in to. I was in awe the way they spoke and the way they dealt with every person that walked through the door, no matter what section we went through. I've never seen anything like that. And they were kids, looked like 17, 18, all the way to people in their 40s. That was absolutely incredible to listen to what the hospitality people did to help their communication skills in dealing with people.
That might be something we could maybe find a connection or contact and
I,
tap
that's
into.
what you just said, and I thought of that. That's absolutely. I just saw. We walked through there, and as pretty as it was, that's what stood out to me is the kids and the people, the way they dealt with the public coming in.
Well, we'll probably need to tap into that
Yeah,
contact. to see
absolutely.
who those-
And there is a company. There's a person on site that's there. And they do have, and I don't recall the HR person that's there. And if you look at it, 330.
Okay.
We were trying to figure out why House 330
Okay.
is our area code.
That's why he's got
Didn't know-
tattooed on his arm, so he never
330.
forgets where
It's
he's
a very
from.
yeah, how to call home, but that's what the 330 stands for, which we were surprised. But yeah, I just thought I'd throw
Thank
that in there because that was really awesome. Stood out. As pretty as it is, the kids stood out more.
We like to borrow ideas
Mhm.
as we
Me
create
too.
things, so definitely something to research. Okay. Benefit Bridge Program, as you recall, is a program that we are piloting with the state with a number of other counties. We are funded through the state special projects to serve up to 50 individuals. Well, it says at the end of February we have we were serving 9, or actually on the next page we're serving 6. As of today, we're serving 13, so we're growing in that program. It's my understanding that the legislator is going to be voting on it as a permanent budget line item under the governor, so I think that's exciting if it passes, that we have that wraparound support for people that are leaving public assistance. That's the goal, is to get people to self-sufficiency, but we definitely know we have some wraparound, so we're doing good in that space. That was really it in the space of Ohio Means Jobs and Children's Services. We need to label that. We often forget to say children and adult protective, and so that category is both. We added a new section under APS, and that's Adult Protective Services. So we're capturing cases that we get new into our hotline for our elderly residents, and then also open cases. So at the end of February, there was a data issue last time I came, but it's been cleaned up. But at the end of February, we had 10 new cases for our residents over 65 that came through the abuse neglect hotline, and we currently have, it says in February, 62 cases. So we hover around 60 open cases where we're serving individuals over 65. We have still about 62 children in custody from Child Protective Services.
And we weren't being, I said, I'm over 65. So.
You would
Shit,
not
I've
be
got, we're going to be talking about Debbie.
That's
and as of at the end of February, under Human Resources, we reported out at 188 employees. As of this week, we're at 191, so we continue to grow. We're growing in the right direction.
Is that goal like 200?
205,
205? Okay.
but we're gonna maybe
Slowly
talk
get there?
about more with you in the
Okay.
future, in the near future. But 205 is from our last
Okay,
budget
right,
goal. Yep.
right.
And that's the data report, unless you had any additional questions.
I do not.
No, other than I see our numbers of children in custody are continuing to go down. It's at 161. I remember when we were at 260 some. So, which is interesting because I just got a report yesterday that we've had 12 overdose deaths within the last 28 days in Portage County. And so I know a lot of the children in custody were spurred from the heroin epidemic.
Absolutely.
So,
I have to say, and I think other directors would concur with me, that one of our biggest challenges of Child Protective Services continues to be the substance abuse. The struggles to reunify families when parents are struggling in recovery. We know the average relapse, and I'm sure my dad is old, is 5 to 6 times in a lifetime. And we typically have a 2-year window to work with families to get kids back in that environment. Sometimes we're not successful with the hold, the grip that heroin and meth have on families. So that struggle is real in Portage and other communities, but it's pretty profound.
We're special.
Yeah, it is. And then the mental health of our young people is an issue that we continue to deal with. And then tapping those kids into services while we have providers. There's still waiting lists and those things. So we have work to do. But while the numbers are going down, I would say the issues in the homes has significantly changed than when it was when I started in the 90s in Child Protective. You would get calls on marijuana use, and we would be responding to marijuana in the home. Well, marijuana, I'm not saying that's not an issue, but the grip of heroin and meth on families is far different than what it used to be. So we persevere.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I met with Kelly Jo and Susan yesterday, and we talked for a little bit about that. Obviously, we didn't come up with a solution, but it's just horrible. Absolutely horrible.
yep.
And startling news, if I didn't mean to bring doom and gloom because we're going to shift a couple things, but I've been in public service for 29 years, and I've been blessed to be in Portage County for the last 9. And there's been times where when we have a phenomenal law enforcement presence in this community, and when they feel children are at risk, we're contacted and we respond in the middle of the night whenever we need to. And if we are given custody of kids, we then start to look for family if we need to connect them, or foster parents and other networks. And so first time in 29 years, in the last 3 weeks, on 3 separate occasions, we had sibling groups under the age of 12 that had to spend the night in this building, at least one night, until we could connect them with a foster family.
Wow.
And so that changes, not that we should have those struggles with teenagers, but we've always had that. But the fact that we're having those struggles with younger kids now, it just kind of tells you where we're at.
Kind of heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking. So I didn't want to be doom and gloom, but I
No.
absolutely.
No, those are good things
Yeah.
to know, to hear.
Yeah.
And we spoke about that yesterday, and I want to talk to you about that. I came up with something last night.
Yeah.
I think it'll work.
Okay. Yeah. We definitely talk a lot on the state level about the placement crisis
Mhm.
issue because we need to do better in recruiting and that. But
Especially when the volume goes up, like
Yeah.
you're describing.
so.
Well, we appreciate you being there.
Thank you. Strategic planning. I reported that we thought we had a connection with Summit County Education Service Centers to do some of our work, and they felt maybe our requests were a little bit bigger, not as where they needed to go. So we continue to look for a provider in that space. The University of Akron, who did our leadership training for our county directors, is helping to find or locate a resource for us. So we continue. I just wanted to be fact-based on that. Workforce grant update and upcoming Heroes bonus and discussion. So the governor trickled funds down through Ohio Department of Job and Family Services last year. We represented all of the ideas in the budget that we wanted to do to help recruit and retain, specifically in our Child Protective Services division because of the workforce crisis. We got $165,000 in the grant, and we were earmarked to spend most of it, but we came under budget. So the state, or our Children's Services Association, asked all 88 counties to really be intentional in spending their dollars. There's also some potential dollars available to us where counties didn't use it. So in addition to what we already had earmarked, we learned great things about something called a remarkable tablet. So that interfaces with the Surface Pros or the computers that our workers have out in the field, where they can take hand notes on a tablet, electronic tablet with a pen, and it converts it to case notes. Again, trying to find more efficiencies for our workforce. So we'd like to, we proposed, and we haven't heard back from the state if these additions would be approved, but we proposed that. We proposed new chairs for our workers in Child Protective Services. It's been a long time since we've had new furniture, and that's an allowable expense. So I think sometimes small things like that make morale changes.
That's actually bigger than small.
Yeah.
That's pretty
So
cool.
waiting to see on that. And the last thing, and I will report back to you, so you had already approved, we called them the Heroes bonuses.
I was just I just want to clarify word hero, what that meant.
I just kind of called it heroes
Okay.
because in my eyes, our social workers are heroes. They put themselves, they're first responders, just like fire, police, different goals, but they're out in the field. So I just
Okay.
kind of labeled them heroes. And
That-
in our grant, we called it our heroes bonus. So we already have one that's scheduled to roll out based on the original grant. But I had proposed to the state, could we do a 1-month pilot? Because we're putting a lot of expectations around our social workers who have too much work, too many cases, but we want them to be very intentional in making sure our kids are seen and that our documentation is up. So we'd like to pilot just a 1 month where for those that can meet those quality assurance measures that we can incentivize them. Again, not a reoccurring, but we want to use the dollars, and so we're waiting to hear if we can do it. And so if we can, I think it would mean a lot to them because they're really striving to meet the demands of the job.
Keep us abreast of that, please.
Yeah, I will. So that was just a brief update. Unless you had any questions or issues, I will keep you up to date.
No, you gave us a lot of information there, Kelly.
Okay, and then I sent just, it was a screenshot of an email of upcoming community planning committee. So our PRC plan, prevention, retention, and contingency is all TANF funded for families with dependent children. While we oversee the funds and the plan belongs to us, Ohio Revised Code requires us to have these community meetings every year to get input from the public, from other providers. Does our plan meet the needs in Portage County? And so we have that April meeting coming up, and so I just wanted to publicly announce that, that we're gonna, again, entertain, are there gaps in services?
And that's for the whole county. Where do we have that meeting? Here?
At Ohio Means Jobs.
Oh, Jobs. Okay.
Yep.
Right.
And we do a public notice too. I just wanted to share in public meeting that that's coming up too.
Great. Thank you.
And so for there, then I'd like to pivot. I believe you all have, so April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, and I believe you all have a
Proclamation?
for
Some
us.
sort like that?
Yes.
All right. So Mike, why don't you go ahead and start that off?
From the Board of Commissioners, proclamation April 2023 Child Abuse Awareness Month. Whereas in 2022, there were 3,495 reports of child abuse and neglect, which came into the Portage County CARES hotline. And whereas the trauma that children endure when being abused and neglected can have short and long-term psychological, emotional, and physical consequences. And whereas
Child abuse and neglect is a serious issue that affects all segments of our community. And the findings and solutions require input and action from everyone. And whereas we recognize that the children are the most vulnerable resources and will shape the future. And whereas Portage County community must take every effort to support and promote programs and services that will prevent abuse, neglect, and assist children and families to thrive. And
Whereas we acknowledge that we must work together as a community to increase awareness about child abuse and neglect and contribute to promoting the social and emotional well-being of children and families in a safe, stable, and nurturing environment. And resolve, we, the Board of Commissioners of Portage County, do declare and proclaim April 2023 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Portage County, Ohio, and urge all citizens to recognize this month by dedicating ourselves to the task of improving the quality of life for all children and families, and by wearing blue on Wednesday, April 12th, 2023.
Thank you. Thank you.
thank you, ladies. And would you come up and get a picture with us?
Do you want to do it now?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Amy, can you put on our calendar about April 12th, wear blue, please?
Do I come back here?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
So you wanna give a picture?
No, I should.
Why not?
Sue,
But scoot this way, so I'll move my chair.
Sue,
Sue,
Come on, Sue.
without the money, it doesn't happen.
come on.
Come on, Sue. You wanna get?
I'm short.
I hadn't noticed.
No.
I have a heel on too.
Okay, looks good.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Great
Michelle
job.
and her new camera.
Thank you.
Love it. I love it.
That's why I got it.
Yeah. I just have a
Hi.
few more items.
Where's the ladder at?
Prosecutor? Nope.
It doesn't happen.
I said no. We voted
We,
on that,
we,
Bruce.
we destroyed it, then burned it.
Yeah, we voted, Bruce, no.
All right.
Just a
Leave-
few more items. So this next flyer in your packet just exactly states that April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, and we're gonna send this out to the community and promote wearing blue on April 12th. So I just wanted to share that. Also a part of our April Child Abuse Prevention activities, we've coordinated Family Fun Day at Brown Middle School on Sunday, April 23rd. On Saturday, April 22nd, the Children's Advocacy Center is hosting the Bull Against Abuse event, so we come behind them on Sunday for our Family Fun Day. And so we're asking families to come out and participate into some fun activities, but we'll also host a few agencies to speak about child abuse prevention and services. So Catholic Charities is going to speak about our family support services. We're going to have a speaker on our Benefit Bridge program. CCMEP and the Health District is going to come out and do some demos on like car seat safety and possibly, you know, children in cribs and safe sleeping stuff. So it's, we did this before the pandemic. The pandemic put it on hold, so we're excited to bring this back to the community.
Absolutely.
The next thing is a summit on kids. And Michelle, I have, can you send, these are for the commissioners, and then I have one for the county administrator. These are individual invitations.
You know what? We got these in the.
Okay, this one's
packet.
specific to you.
I think these are specific.
They got hers right here.
Oh, okay. I
Michelle
see.
has a special one for the county administrator. So Judge Smith and her team invited Job and Family Services to Ohio Supreme Court conference a few weeks ago. And so myself, David Brode, and Kaylin Kane went, and we had a phenomenal experience. The goal from the Supreme Court was bringing court systems with child welfare systems together to see how we could, we're not on the same teams per se, but how we can collaborate
Same
for the
peoples.
betterment of, children and families and communities. And we all walked away with great ideas and we're very intentional. We have some follow-up meetings. But we were planning to have a foster parent celebration because May is Foster Parent Appreciation Month at Neomed. And while we still want to do that on May 31st, we've changed the focus, or I have, to a Portage County Summit on Kids. And so in that space, so we're extending an invitation to you to come and participate. But in that space, we want to celebrate our staff, our heroes. We want to celebrate our foster parents that are licensed in Portage County. We want to invite our young people. There's 5 of them, I believe, 4 or 5 that are graduating from high school that are in our foster care system. I'd like to share the platform with Judge Smith because she has a lot of great things that are going on and she knows about all this. But so we would frame some things in our talking points, and then Judge Smith is going to talk about the exciting things that she's doing in her space. And while we were at the conference, we were also very moved by this Jessica Chandler. She has such a profound story, and I'm not going to tell it right now. But while we were in the conference, I cheated and asked for her email, and I emailed her and said, would you come to Portage? She lives in Los Angeles, and she said yes. So she's our keynote speaker, and we think we have some special funds.
Well, this is the workforce grant.
So
We've got this in for
we
the
asked
workforce
for the
grant.
workforce grant with excess dollars to cover it. We're waiting to hear, but we're just so very excited. So we hope that you all can attend. We're also going to invite our state representatives locally to be a part of it, and so we think it's good next steps. We're in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
So that's that. You can tell I'm a little bit excited about that.
Rightly
And-
so.
Yeah, and then the last thing that I had in open session was another change again in the space of changes in benefits post-COVID. Is during this period of COVID, there was a waiver on families having to pay child care co-payments, and so they're reinstituting those as well. But what we are going to do in that April community planning meeting that I spoke to you about, where TNF and PRC, we're going to see if we can assign a program in that to help families with some of the co-pays. So we have some ideas how to support families, but again, wanted to let you know that families are now going to start paying co-pays to child care in the near future as well. So just an update.
All right, thank you. You have one resolution?
And
Is
real
that it?
quick,
Yes.
you have our annual report. The back page did not include our county administrator, so this is just an updated one. And then we do have a resolution, and then we do have an executive session as well. So Sue, I pivot to you.
Okay, all right, this is just a regular shared, resolution, payment number 3 for state fiscal year 23 first quarter.
All right, I'll make a motion to transfer from Fund 1415 Child Welfare Special Levy Fund to Fund 1410 Public Assistance Fund.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Sabrina?
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
and you have an executive session. Okay, I'll make a motion in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code 121.22 G1. The Board of Commissioners moves into executive session to consider the employment of a public employee.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Sabrina?
Yes.
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
We are behind schedule. Hey, Michelle, is the Portage County DD board out there?
They are. There are quite a few.
Oh, I love your shirt.
Hi.
Can I have one?
Hi. I am good. I'm so glad to see you guys this morning.
Hi.
Morning.
Hey, Therese.
It's country.
Oh, Catrice.
Catrice.
Oh,
Catrice.
Hi, John. How are ya?
Are you
Catrice.
Hey, if you're gonna say it
I
right.
know, right?
Is that everybody?
Motion.
Okay. Okay.
Motion to come out.
I'll make a motion to come out of executive session.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
is there action?
No action.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank
so
you
much.
very
Thank you,
much.
ladies.
You too.
We have a proclamation for the Portage County Development Disability Board, and this is Awareness Month of March 2023. So we're going to read this.
Commissioner's Proclamation of Portage County Board of Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month for March 2023. My ability is stronger than my disability. Whereas March was designated as Developmental Disability Awareness Month in the 1980s. Individuals with developmental disabilities, their families, friends, neighbors, and coworkers encourage and inspire everyone to focus on the unique and exceptional abilities of all people, and whereas the most effective way to increase this awareness is through everyone's active participation and engagement in community activities and events, along with openness to learn and recognize each individual's involvement and role in today's society. And
Whereas the opportunities for citizens with developmental disabilities to function as independently and productively as possible must be developed in our community, and whereas the commissioners encourage all citizens to support the opportunities for individuals with developmental disabilities in our community and to have a full access to education, housing, employment, and recreational activities. And
Whereas the commissioners encourage residents to take the time to get to know someone with a disability, recognize their abilities, and see what he or she has to offer. Now therefore it be it resolved that the Portage County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim March 2023 as Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month, and recognizes that our communities are stronger when everyone participates. So John,
Excellent. So we'd like to get a picture with everybody. So we'll come on down there.
Yeah, we'll come
and then
down
maybe
there.
we could sit up in those 3 chairs, and then they could put around us.
Is it okay if I, sorry.
sure.
How about we have them stand up, and then we'll take these chairs and we'll sit in front of them. And then
Well, we're being quiet, and then all of a sudden something perfect excited people. So I apologize. And then I watch it.
It's small. It is, and it gets really loud. It still hears us like recording, and then you can hear.
Yes.
Oh, I hate to go up there. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. We all need reeled in sometimes.
He's shy, John's shy.
Get over here.
yeah, if you want to
Come on, guys, in the back.
Come on.
Come on there.
Oh, it's okay, guys.
Good.
I don't like.
Are you who's in the,
It's
Laura,
all
do you want
about
in the
you.
picture?
Laura, there would be great.
Laura, you're an integral part of this.
Come on, Lauren.
You're all
Do you
integral
have
parts.
everybody stand?
All right, stand. Yep. All right.
Looks like we're standing.
All right. All abilities.
Sorry.
Looking here. Good job. All right. Okay.
Great. Excellent.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming in.
We'll put this, John, did you want to say?
Put this on our Facebook page too, is that okay?
Thank the three of you for doing this for us, first of all. And, we had the rallies here in Ravenna.
Yeah.
Just last
Are there
week.
any minors?
No minors.
commissioners, and everyone here. All their employees. Except for one, but we have highs.
Okay, is it okay that we put the picture on Facebook?
There you go.
Oh, wow, check it
Yes.
out. Is it on?
I will, let me just go back.
Let me
and
give you
check.
my card and email me.
Yes, yes,
How's that?
and then that way, I just to be sure, but,
I don't want to.
yeah, there's only one that that is just dawned on me.
If you ever want to check out our video,
That's what John was just
Keep that smile.
So, well, thank you guys for coming in today. We're so excited to have you.
Thanks for coming today.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
All right, bye, Jonathan.
I'll see you later.
All right, I got something for you.
Oh,
Yeah.
Hey, Sabrina?
Yep.
This.
Pardon?
Do they want black?
Hey, Sabrina. Hey, John. No, we.
I thought.
All the kids attend, or?
We did it.
He kicked some butt.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You got a picture.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
I will hold on to it for you, no problem, okay?
Thank you. Thank
We missed a couple people.
I got a
There you go.
Great.
Look.
I know, I got one too.
I might want to get
All right, Lori.
Let's go ahead, we'll head on out so they can continue their meeting and we'll talk.
All right. Thank you guys.
Bye-bye, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thanks for coming.
You're
Working
welcome.
hard.
Seeing
Bye,
you.
Laura.
Bye.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye, girlfriend. See you later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll see you at nutrition. Or Jonathan may enroll me in drum fit again.
Good job. Good thought, Amy.
You're the best.
I get to have fun at my job.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. You do, Polly.
Chris, thank you for allowing us to delay you. You were up, sir.
Okay, just a quick follow-up to what we talked about last week. Got a suggestion to maybe take some of the burden, make it easier on the board. With this windmill and solar facility issue, if you wanted to have one meeting, say, middle of the year, you can do that, because you're covered. You know how we talked about the
Yeah.
proactive approach or the reactive approach?
Yeah.
Even if you do nothing, before anybody can put a new facility in the county, they have to give notice to this board and the trustees, and then you have like a veto power for 90 days. So
Okay.
even if you don't want to go the meeting route and be proactive, you still can cover it on a case-by-case basis. So however you want to do it is up to all of you.
That was my thoughts when you brought that up. We're here anyway. I guess my question has been, and I haven't figured it out yet, what triggered it. I know that Commissioner Bennett had indicated that, they're kind of full up in Columbiana County.
Yeah,
and-
well, yeah.
and the possibility of heading this direction, and I get that part, but what I've read that you sent to us indicates that nothing can happen without us anyway, so I'm good with just
So Chris,
waiting.
what about for Shalersville? Because they have already put us on notice that their desire is not to have those there. And they do have people in their community that are being looked at to sign leases. So,
To bring forth that resolution that they had
yeah.
from this level?
And that's, but the way I see that is that's fine. That's what they want for their community, and I would surely support that because that's what they want. I'm just talking about the other 509 square mile.
Wasn't the only action that we were talking about doing is going to the townships association
Sending
meeting
out a
and
letter
saying,
to-
hey, this is what our plan is, and it can't happen without the Board of Commissioners, And any questions?
But we wanna hear from them
Yeah.
as to what they want for their
Yeah.
community.
Yep. So that's good that we don't have to do anything, but
Sure.
I'd like to really continue
But
that
what
May.
do, but what do we do about
would too.
Shalersville? Because that's different.
Well, with Shalersville, if a new facility were to come on in, they still have to come to this board.
Uh-huh.
And you still have veto power over that
Yep.
for 90 days. So you can still protect Shalersville reactively rather than proactively. So you won't even have to have a meeting for Shalersville and make it prohibitive throughout Shalersville if you don't want to. Now, if you want to, you could. I mean, that's up to the board, but it's either or. Either you could take a proactive approach and have your meeting and prohibit it in Shalersville, or you can just sit back and wait to see if somebody wants to come in Shalersville, and then they give you notice. And then
Well,
you-
that's why they gave us notice, because their residents are being contacted to start getting their land leased, and they do not want to be in the ship where, and I understand we have the ability, but they don't wanna tick the residents off by having them sign leases, get paid, thinking they're gonna make all this money off of it, and then they veto it, or we veto it. That was their whole reason why they sent us that.
So,
Because they're concerned about it, yeah.
Proactively would be we could tell Shalersville trustees, set up your meeting. We'll come to it, tell them what it is, and they've made a resolution already to stop that, and we will pass the resolution to go along with them.
you definitely could do that if you.
I think we should for Shalersville, because they've been very adamant, Chris. They don't wanna have to deal with their residents screaming at them that they're taking over their land rights and telling them what to do, because they're concerned about the bigger picture, and that is, they don't want a bunch of solar farms and panels in their community.
So basically, the position would be, so to help Shalersville tell their folks that the county's not gonna allow them to come into Shalersville, to spare them from having to go through the lease process.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
have that,
As you say, proactively, we know it's already happening
Yeah.
there.
Okay.
So we step forward and just say, nope, can't do it.
Yeah.
Do we have to have a public meeting for that?
yeah,
Yeah.
you would.
Yeah.
Okay, so they continue on with Shalersville, set up a public meeting, and we could be there for that.
Yeah, we wanna continue with Shalersville.
And would you be there with us, by the way?
Yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah,
Right,
he has
yeah.
to be.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
And that's just telling them our thoughts that no, you don't want it, we're good with you.
We're
Yeah.
backing you.
We're in
Yeah.
total
And
support.
if they hear it from us, that's probably makes them feel better, so.
Yeah.
If the other townships were to then say, well, we want you to do the same thing,
And we may get that, and that's where we can have one big central meeting, if you want, because that's what Columbiana's doing. They
Yeah.
did like a block of 6, and now they've got a block of 7 townships that they just had one meeting, but they're all invited to it, and it just gets it with one swoop, versus we have 18 different meetings, 18 different filings. We can do it all at once.
well, it's your call. I mean, you can do.
Yeah, we're gonna do that.
Okay,
Let's start with Shalersville, and then if more
Yep.
come on, then we'll try to block them, group them
okay.
to do it then.
So we'll get the letters out to.
Yeah, we already signed the letters,
Yep.
so
Okay.
they're ready
They,
to
they
go.
just want, we signed those yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Those are available, yep, okay, yep.
All right.
Yeah, let's do that.
Sounds good.
All right, thanks, sir.
Okay,
Thank you very much for coming in.
Yeah, I have one other.
One
Yes,
more
sir.
thing.
With the Towner's Woods transfer to
Yeah.
Park District, talking to tax map, there's a portion of that property needs a new legal description, so it's gonna have to be resurveyed. And Chris Craycroft is from the Park District, is willing to pay the cost of a surveyor. She asked if the board could retain the surveyor. So if I could, what I got in mind possibly, I'll get the list from Leslie, the surveyors in the county, and we'll pick one. It'll definitely be under the bid thresholds, we won't do
Mhm.
anything like that. Then maybe get an MOU between Chris, the board, and the surveyor saying, we'll retain, but the Park District will pay.
Yep,
And if you're okay with that, maybe I'll
Yeah.
send up a resolution and an MOU next week.
yes, sir.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right, perfect, thank you,
Thanks,
Chris. We're right on time.
Did you want me to stay for the airport?
Yes, please.
Okay.
That'd be a good idea. Are they gonna, putting them on Zoom?
Do we have
Yeah.
another prosecutor's office agenda item? Is
He's
someone
been coming
coming?
till 11, I think, right?
Oh, Vic's coming
Or
in?
11.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, we're gonna go into recess till 12 or 10:30. Is that good? So are we.
No more.
Trees are starting, I think this is the week where everything's gonna,
I gotta get.
let's see, the buds are starting to come out a little bit, and yeah, it's nice to see some green.
Yeah, we had the buds for last week, but we frost this morning, so hopefully it doesn't kill everything.
And you're Jeff, right?
Yes.
I'm
Jeff?
David.
Oh,
David.
you're David, and then we have Jeff.
I'm Scotty.
Mark,
Oh,
sorry.
Scotty. Why do I have Jeff Coleman, manager?
Are we up all the way?
I don't think we spoke with Jeff. We spoke with these two guys.
Jeff,
Yeah.
Jeff and I talked with you, this is going back to
Could you turn the volume up?
March, April of last year, after the review. Jeff and I were on, Jeff is the majority owner of the company,
Mm-hmm.
and then Scotty and I.
Okay.
Could you hold 1 second? We're gonna, so we can put the volume up so we could hear you.
We got reconvened too.
Yep.
Dad,
Did you hear that, Aim?
Dad.
Okay, can you hear?
Can you say something for us, David?
I can't hear.
Yeah, perfect. He can't hear us.
I'll fix it.
He's gonna fix it.
1 sec.
We need a motion to come out.
Might be on mute.
Oh,
No, no, we reconvened.
reconvene.
We did.
Okay.
We don't have to have a motion.
Okay. Yep. Amy, ready for? Come up. We're gonna reconvene to the Board of Commissioners.
Okay, you should hear us now, right?
Yep, now we're rolling.
Perfect.
Okay, hang on a second. Okay. Thanks for your patience.
Okay, great. Good to see you this morning.
You as well.
And you are up.
Okay, I'm everything just, I think I have the ability to share my screen here, so let's get this going. We have a little presentation. Let's see.
We got it.
You should have.
The assessment opinion?
I think.
Yep.
Well, good morning. We appreciate the opportunity to be here and provide an update, an overview as to our progress on the assessment and the options analysis. You know, as we kind of get started here, I do want to spend a little time on the scope and the purpose for the scope, our progress to date, and then we'll get into the key findings and conclusions before we kind of get into the next steps. But there we go. But just as a reminder, I'm David Benner. Scotty's here with me. I'm happy to answer any questions, go through any clarifying statements on what we're going to talk about here today. But just big picture from a scope, and this is going back to the proposal and the project authorization from late last summer, midsummer. We have 3 different elements. So element 1, airport assessment and options analysis, then the FBO assessment and options analysis, and then the third element, the airport strategic business plan. So to date, we focused on the first 2 elements, the airport assessment and options and the FBO assessment and options. And really the purpose of that is to convey those top 10 areas that we believe need improvement from both an airport and from an FBO perspective. As we get through that assessment piece, so those top 10 areas, that's the assessment piece. We assess every detail of the airport and the FBO. Then into looking at what are the options going forward, especially from a county perspective, from the governance operation management of both the airport and the FBO. So focusing on those first 2 elements. Then looking at a managerial and customer or operational analysis of every one of those options, those 3 options, which we'll talk about from both the county and from a customer perspective. And then what we've most recently done, you know, coming out of identifying those options, making a recommendation on those options, getting agreement around those options, then analyzing the financial performance over the 5-year period going forward. Then the next piece, you know, and we'll talk about this, you know, could be the strategic business plan. Really, that's focusing on those standard business plan elements, mission, vision, values, going into a SWOT analysis, goals, objectives, action plans, moving the airport and the FBO forward depending on the options. So, but just, I think big picture kind of, you know, where does these elements and what was the underlying purpose here? And really it's the county being, related to the airport, if you will, but on the outside from an ownership operation management. Really, it's to assess what's going on there at the airport and the FBO. Let's get an understanding of what's going on out there, understand any pitfalls or challenges that we may come across. Then what are the options going forward, especially from a county perspective? Analyzing those options, making a selection on those options, and then understanding the financial impacts of that option that is selected. So that's kind of the big picture of what we have done to date. And then really, you know, that element 3, if everything proceeds on course and it's necessary and at your option, we start element 3, and that's the business plan. If we get to the end of this process and it's the county decision not to move forward from an involvement or operational ownership perspective of the airport or the FBO, you don't need a business plan for an entity that you don't own or control. So that, you know, that kind of final piece, that element 3, that's at your option going forward. So that's kind of big picture. I do want to spend just a quick second on the schedule to date. You know, going back to the project authorization, we had 20 weeks from the initial site visit. Scotty and I were out there the end of November, first week of December. So those first kind of 10 weeks, if you will, we really focused on the assessment and identifying the options, getting to our recommendation. We had a meeting back in February, we provided the assessment and options analysis, so we'll go through each of those key findings in that document. Then since that date, and getting the agreement on the recommended options, we moved forward with the financial analysis that we've been doing the last number of weeks. That brings us to today, week 17, and providing this update gives us a little bit of time from a schedule standpoint to make any clarifying statements or revisions to the documents that we've provided to date. So first, just you know, from a key finding standpoint, we'll walk through each of these, the assessment, the options analysis, and then the financial piece. But really, you know, the purpose of the assessment, you know, we go and talk to people, we look at everything, we review everything, and getting into those key 10 areas. Consistent with the options analysis, the first thing we think from your perspective is the ownership of both the airport and the FBO. Moving forward on that piece. Obviously, if you own if you assume ownership and operation of an entity or a department, the first thing you need to look at is the organizational structure and what that staffing plan is going to be. So that's kind of those first 2 key pieces. And then on the airport side, there's a lot of knowledge at the airports, especially from the authority, and developing an advisory body to help the county move forward on governance and managerial questions, helping that staff onboard into the airport. From an FBO standpoint, we believe that maintenance piece, aircraft maintenance, is vitally important to the lifeblood of the airport. So that's kind of your first 3 pieces. Then moving into each, you know, the underlying aspects, you know, on the airport, through the fence is obviously going to be a challenge. It is an existing activity that is going on. So understanding what that access agreement is going to need to be, what that is from a compliance standpoint. So we walk through all of that from an assessment piece. Then into the maintenance and equipment plan, enhancing the operation of the airport from a developing an ops manual, doing that self-inspection checklist, protocols, those types of steps from a very standard airport management perspective. Enhancing the security there from a vehicular and personnel access standpoint, also from team gates, those types of things. Then into the PMCDs, or the primary management compliance documents. The airport does, the authority does have minimum standards and rules. Obviously, if the airport changes hands, those need to be updated to reflect the county's desires and wishes and how the county is going to operate and manage the airport from those 2 key documents from a compliance standpoint. Then other documents in there, you know, leasing policy, rents policy, fees, development policies, those types of things, but really focusing on those key areas in the minimum standards and rules. Then looking at revenue enhancements from an airport perspective, and all of those lead to, you know, in those out years, that potential runway extension, if that is necessary in those out years. Then flipping over to the FBO side, key piece on any FBO is fuel. And inspecting that fuel storage facility, a detailed inspection of that fuel storage facility, understanding what is going to be necessary from that standpoint, developing a fuel pricing program, a margin basis on both jet and avgas, and then going into the service enhancements from a customer service perspective of how the county wants to operate and manage the FBO. That leads into the potentially reconfiguring the terminal building to provide access on an after-hours basis to simple things as a restroom, potential vending, those types of pieces. Equipment is obviously going to be important in those out years as things move forward, and then making a concerted effort on the marketing side as well. That all leads to another, kind of out year with the runway extension, but that hangar development feasibility study, and if that is that's kind of that final recommendation there on the FBO side. So that's kind of the summary of that assessment. 30 pages or so. Each one of those pieces is detailed within the document and all the underlying aspects, but that's kind of the big picture of where we see what are those 10 key areas to focus on from an airport and from an FBO standpoint. So once we had that understanding, get through those recommendations, then we really start the options analysis. And the options are the same on both sides, the airports and the FBO. So just big picture, one, lease the airport or the FBO to a private entity, and they control it, they manage it, they operate it. Or the sponsor operated, the county operates both of those directly, with county personnel, both on the airport and the FBO side, or the management contract, engaging a private entity to manage either one of those assets on behalf of the county. So that's kind of your three different options. And we went through a operational analysis and a customer analysis of each of the options. Obviously, things like control and responsibility change depending on the county's involvement. The financial contribution is impacted, capital requirements, your liability exposure, that's a big one. If you're operating it directly with your personnel, your liability is higher than if you have a lessee addressing all of those operational aspects. So looked at that all from an operational standpoint, from a county standpoint, and then also from a customer standpoint. What would the impacts to the ultimate user be? To the pilots and users of the airport-based customers, transient customers coming into the area. Looking at all of that from infrastructure improvements, rents, fees, all of those different pieces, personnel, public relations, what the different impacts would be under each of those three options. And that took us to the end of the options analysis, that managerial and operational analysis, getting to our recommendations. That's what we provided back in February, and moving forward, then getting agreement to move forward with the financial analysis of our recommended options, and that's the sponsor, the county taking over the airports and the FBO, moving them forward. So the purpose, going back to what we talked about earlier, is really for the county to understand what are the financial impacts and ramifications of moving forward under these different options. What are our revenues going to be, costs, expenses, what is our CapEx, what's that overall financial performance of these two different aspects. We obviously projecting into the future, so historical year ended in 2023, we looked at as kind of the transition year, if you will, and projected 24, 5, 6, 7, and 8 going forward. With any projections, there has to be assumptions on a going forward basis. So we looked at that from aircraft operations, the takeoff and landings that are occurring at the airport from based aircraft. How is that going to change? Questions related to fueling from a volume standpoint, from a pricing standpoint, the fuel margin from an avgas and from a jet standpoint. What are the rents going to be going forward? What are the fees that are going to be charged? Consistent with the assessment, implementing a through the fence agreement, but also an access fee. What's that going to be? How's that going to be developed looking at projecting that going forward. Personnel are going to be required under a county operation and management, so what personnel do we need? What are their pay rates? What are the vehicles and equipment that we're going to need to deploy out there from an airport and from an FBO perspective? So we looked at each of those kind of key assumptions on, you know, that 5-year period from an airport standpoint and from an FBO standpoint. We treated those as individual departments, kind of under the airport, if you will, so that the airport side, airport management stands on its own, the FBO stands on its own. Obviously, they're sharing from a personnel standpoint some of the costs, but separating those out, so really that helps us to analyze the FBO, especially from a fuel margin standpoint, what that pricing needs to be. But then we brought it all back together from a combined operation as well, so it's a little bit easier to see kind of the combined impacts. And that brings us to this, in terms of the combined financial statements over the next 5 years, or 5-year period starting in 24. Looking at all the revenues on the combined basis, we have this for the airport on its own, we have this for the FBO on its own, we have all the detail. This is just kind of the collapsed version, if you will. But revenues, costs, then that obviously from a financial statement into your margin, all the different operating expenses, that's where personnel and all of those things come in. Into our operating income, then the sources and uses of funds on a below the line basis, ultimately leading to that net cash flow. It's not difficult to see. Our projection is negative over the next 5 years. The biggest negative being in that first year. That's reflective of acquiring the necessary vehicles and equipment in that first year. And that's where that non-operating use of funds there, second to last line, comes in. It's also important to understand what this what these projections don't include. Major maintenance is one of those. We have maintenance, kind of that routine maintenance aspect incorporated into the model from a facility standpoint, from an airside standpoint, land side, from a nav aids, AWAS, you know, those pieces. But major maintenance is not included, major capital investment. Obviously, there's grants that can be available for development, some certain projects on airports. You know, but those grants come along with matches. You know, if it's a 90-10 or a 95-5, 90% FAA, 5 state, you know, 5 local, those grant matches aren't included. Acquisition of the vehicles and equipment in the out years is not included as well. So going back to the assessment on the FBO side, just as an example, we had service enhancements for the FBO. If one of those services is to provide fueling from a truck, we don't have the truck included in the out years here. So whether that's a purchase price or a lease, some of those vehicles and equipment going into the out years aren't addressed. It also doesn't include the annual non-primary entitlement that is eligible for certain projects as the airport sponsor from the FAA, because you're classified as a general aviation airport. There are those sides of it. And then it doesn't include the acquisition and transition costs related to the airport or the FBO. Really, this is, if the county, you know, if we follow those two options, the county operating and managing the airport and the FBO, what is the financial performance going forward under those options that we outlined? I know that's a lot of information kind of in a short period of time, but you know, really just kind of bringing all of that together and what are the high points, you know, from your perspective to think about. Obviously, if it's county owned and operated, there's direct control and oversight from the county, from the commission, managing those personnel, and understanding what the capital expenditures are going to be on a going forward basis, making that capital improvement program. There is funding that is occurring now into the airport from a county level. This would be a more planned expenditure going forward. Being able to set rents and fees, addressing any through the fence access issues, but really it kind of comes down to that control and oversight by the county in those key areas, in every area, but in those key areas. If you do move forward with those options, so the county owning and operating the airport, county owning and operating the FBO with county personnel, One item that is eligible to you is the proprietary exclusive right on commercial fueling. That's a protected right from the FAA that you can say, you know, as the sponsor, we're going to be the only entity at this airport providing commercial fueling. Self-fueling is different, but on that commercial side, that would be an option to you. With any, you know, every decision has the other side of the coin. This, you know, moving forward with these options would bring along, you know, the highest degree of capital requirements. Again, there is capital going into the airport, but that would not change, and it may increase depending on decisions going forward. Obviously, your liability exposure, owning it and operating it, would increase as well. You can minimize that, obviously, but you know, you can never truly mitigate that liability exposure side. I know looking at financial statements, you get to the end and you see numbers in red or numbers in parentheses, and you kind of want to see it the other way. It's important to understand that most general aviation airports are not financially self-sustaining, that there is support from the airport sponsor, whether it's a city or county, you know, the municipality supporting that airport from a general aviation basis. But really, it's looking at the airport and the FBO, you know, as the assets that they are. They're an incubator for commercial activity on the airport, incubator for economic development in the area and in the region. Emergency services are provided there today. That's vitally important to the constituents in the area. And there is a recreation piece to any general aviation airport. You know, as aviation people, you know, we see that recreation side as well. But that's kind of the overall summary of kind of, if we can distill that 80, 100 pages or whatever it is together between the two reports down into those kind of four key aspects. You know, so from this point, you know, and this kind of brings us to the end, but from this point, you know, forward, how we would look at it is, you know, those documents going through a internal review process. If there's any clarifying statements that we need to add, or we need to expound or expand upon any section to explain those, answer any questions. So going through that revision and finalizing of the document standpoint. And then based upon, you know, your option, or the county's option, moving forward with element 3, if that's desired on a going forward basis on the airport strategic business plan. So that's kind of, you know, where we started, you know, what our progress to date, those key findings, and then where we go from here. But that was kind of the prepared remarks that we wanted to get through today. Happy to answer any questions or clarify any statements for you as we move forward.
So, Mike, do you have anything?
I do not.
Sabrina?
Yeah, I have a quick question for you. When I'm looking at the key findings, financial analysis results, when it says operating expenses, does that include staffing in those figures?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because it's just a broad category, and I didn't know what was clumped in there. Okay.
So there is detail under each of those, projecting each of the payroll for each position, benefits, taxes, all of those pieces.
Is rolled in there.
Operating a business, you know, that personnel is one of the bigger expense items, yeah, for sure.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mhm.
Anything else? Michelle, do you have any questions?
No, I'm doing that.
Anybody have any questions?
Nothing.
Airport? Right, okay. All right, I believe that's going to be it for right now. Pardon?
Very
We
good.
want to go and discuss,
Yes, we have
Oh,
an
yeah.
executive.
the FBO,
Pardon?
to go into executive session.
Yep,
discuss
we do
it.
have, yep. Where are we? In accordance with the Ohio Revised Code 121.22G2, the Board of Commissioners moves into executive session to consider the purchase of the property for public purpose. If premature disclosure of the information would give us an unfair competitive or bargaining advantage to a person whose personal private interest is adverse to the general public's interest. Make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Roll call?
Tony,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Okay.
Do you need this for that?
Yes,
Yeah.
we're gonna, yes,
Okay,
yep.
okay. I just-
They're gonna stay with us. So if we could have you clear the room, please, and we're gonna go, Chris, if you could say.
Yeah, so, the stream.
Mr. Prosecutor can stay too.
We're going to come out of executive session.
I'll make a motion to come out of executive session.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Sabrina?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Their action.
No action.
And Amy, there was no public comment? Okay.
Right. Does anybody have any questions? We'll get back.
The underlying document to this, is that gonna be available online or today or?
The document that supports what he just said.
Online, no, but would you like a copy?
Yeah, I would, yeah. I think maybe.
Three of them?
Isn't that what I just handed?
Yeah. Pardon?
Is that what I just handed out? Is there
That's
something?
the
presentation.
Correct. Yeah, the one that we received
So
last
then
week.
we have a copy. Does everybody have a copy?
No, we have a copy of what he just did. He's the information that we got that backs this up.
We're asking for the actual report.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
oh, okay, I'm sorry. I will have to review it, make any redactions that are not public record, and then we will post something. Or actually, I'll email it to you. Is that okay?
Dick, my phone was crushed, so I can get your phone number again. That'd be great.
I'll call you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I can get it. Is there anything else for the board?
I just said.
We'll give you the supporting document
We need to
for
see
that.
this
Absolutely.
report,
Yep.
see how they got there.
Yeah, and then we could have discussion about some of the concerns that we have. All right?
If you get my okay, you want to get a free airplane?
No.
We'll get you one of those hats that spin.
I'll get you a little propeller. I've got an extra rubber band for your propeller. Who was it that did that? All right. But that'll be it.
Oh, prosecutor.
Prosecutor. Sir. Prosecutor, if you come up, please. Yes. And we're going to turn this microphone. Whoa. All right, we'll see you. We'll be talking.
Hi.
Let me compliment you on your new setup here.
You like? We like it. It's
Very professional, and
the.
I feel like I'm in court.
There you go. And that's the way I'm feeling.
You can't handle the truth.
And they wouldn't let me have a black robe. That's bummed.
Especially when you're in the Court of Appeals and there's three judges that you're
Yeah,
arguing.
Yeah,
I'll
there you
bet.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, very similar. We'll see if you ask me pointed questions as they do and spar for the next hour and a half.
All right.
It ain't gonna
I'm pretty sure.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's getting lunchtime.
That's-
It ain't happening.
Gotcha. Well, I come before you once again to ask to expand my staff. And again, it's because of the situation we face, not only in caseload, but in the changing law. Next week, on April 6th, the Marcy's Law enabling legislation takes effect. As
Could you
recall-
brief us and tell us?
Certainly. Marcy's Law was a constitutional amendment that was passed about 2 years ago, granting very broadly victims certain rights in criminal proceedings. The Marcy's Law constitutional amendment was just a few paragraphs on a page. And the amendment, the constitutional amendment, foreshadowed what's called enabling legislation, to put meat on the bones of that. And that's what's taken a couple of years for the legislature to come up with. And they have now done that. It passed in the lame duck session last year under House Bill 343. That statute itself is 137 pages long. And it is very specific in the duties and obligations of, first of all, law enforcement officers as they deal with victims of crime. Secondly, prosecutors' offices as they deal with victims of crime. And thirdly, the judges, the courts, as they deal with victims of crime. And it gives a wide range of rights and responsibilities for victims. And these obligations to law enforcement and to prosecutors and judges are extensive. They are very specific as to how victims are to be treated at crime scenes, how they're to be notified at crime scenes, how they're to be handled throughout the criminal justice process, how prosecutors are required to notify them, to consult with them, to accompany them to hearings, and provide them with assistance in victim impact statements, restitution agreements and follow through with them after verdict through the appellate process and the restitution process through probation. So it gives us a number of obligations with victims that are very specifically mandated now. The police also have additional responsibilities. New forms are coming out as we speak from the Supreme Court, which are required to be furnished to victims, completed by officers at the time of the crime, and filed with us, the prosecutor, with the court, with a copy to the victim. The AG is required to produce informational pamphlets and cards for victims, and all of this is supposed to take effect next week on April 6th.
It sounds like you're basically going to be the attorney for your prosecutor's office is going to be the attorney for the victim.
Well, that's an interesting concept. The victim is entitled to representation. They can hire their own attorney. They can designate the prosecutor as their representative, or any other civilian as their representative.
Wow.
Now, very few victims will, I think, take advantage of paying out of their pocket for an advocate, and that's not the county's responsibility to provide attorneys to victims, as they are for defendants. So the large majority of that burden will fall upon us, as we do now, representing victims' rights. I anticipate that most victims will ask us to speak on their behalf, and that's just logical and economical for them. So yes, that burden will fall upon my office. As is always the case, the legislature gave us all of these additional responsibilities, but no money. It's an unfunded mandate. We are petitioning our representatives now for the state to give us some funding. There is a budget bill down there that's pending that we're looking to tack some language onto that requires the state to provide funding for these types of programs, not only for us, but for the police officers also. And as you know, our funding source for victims of crime, the Victims of Crime Act, which is federal money, has been substantially reduced over the last few years. In 2019, our office was getting $290,000 a year for VOCA money. That has now been reduced to only $104,000 for 2023. I've come to you how many times in the meantime, asking you and telling you that I had to provide these services, and you have graciously made up the difference. And you are carrying the bulk of the load for the victims of crime part of my office. So what has happened is, in addition to all these additional responsibilities, our caseload has increased. It's higher now than it's ever been. Last year we serviced over 2,500 individuals as victims. And I've done that in all 6 of the courts that we service, the 3 municipal courts, the 2 common police court, and the juvenile court. I've done that with 5 advocates. And the easiest way for us to do that is to put an advocate in each court. Each one is responsible for the cases that pass through that court. And as you've heard, the caseloads, the common police courts are doing over 900 cases each, which gives one advocate 900 possible cases, and they may have multiple victims in the cases. So the caseload is tremendous. Of the 5 advocates, I had 6 courts to cover, so they would do their best to pick up the juvenile court, which is, as you know, out in Infirmary Road there. And we didn't have an advocate to cover juvenile court. And as they had time, they would drive out there and try to cover that court. But it's become increasingly impossible to do that with our caseload. And Judge Smith contacted me and said, this just isn't working. I've got too many cases out here where there's no advocate present. And I just can't manufacture or beam somebody over there, being 5 miles away. And so she had over 200 victims over there, and we were not getting good coverage. So she and I talked, and I said it's time probably that I had an advocate for each court, 6 advocates for 6 courts. And that's my request today, is to add another advocate assigned to the juvenile court. And the salary for that position is currently about $51,000. And it's not an exorbitant salary. The advocate must be trained, college degree. We look for somebody with some social work background or psychology background, something like that, that can deal with these very difficult cases.
So it's not an attorney?
No, it's not an
Okay,
attorney.
okay.
No. These are more social workers than
Okay.
attorneys, you know.
So how hard is it to recruit for advocates?
Recruitment now is difficult in many areas. I'm very fortunate right now as I have an intern that's working with my division now for free. She's a college student, but she's going to be graduating, and I'd like to take her on. So I have somebody now that Cassie, my director, tells me is just excellent. They would love to have her on. She's working for free now as an intern, but is going to be graduating here in May. So I'd like to pick her up.
So you could possibly,
Yeah, I have somebody in line.
Is
which
she a
unusual.
social worker?
Yeah, she's coming out of Kent State with
Okay.
a degree. And
So Jackie, on to you. The most important part of my day, funding.
So I've reviewed the letter and the salary benefits numbers, and I believe we can find money in the general fund at this time.
Man needs an advocate, let's give him an advocate.
Yeah. Yep, okay.
Well, Vic, it sounds like there's
okay,
3-0.
I appreciate that,
Okay,
and
all right,
I'm
sir.
sure your constituents will appreciate it because these are the people that.
Well, it's a
are-
tough job, and you guys you've really, your load is not getting any lighter.
No, it is. It is increasingly difficult. I came to you last to ask for 2 more prosecutors, and
Have you found two
one.
more?
And one I
Yeah.
brought up by bringing one of my muni people upstairs to felony court by promotion. The other one I still have not filled.
I remember you saying that earlier.
I've interviewed, the last 2 I interviewed, one, I was outbid by another county for that person. The second one I actually hired, and when he went to give notice where he was at, they gave him a $12,000 raise to stay. So I got a phone call the next day reneging on his acceptance of the position. So I'm still without the second one. It's a tough market out there. And, although I think our pay is fair for the position, it's about $82,000 for an experienced felony prosecutor. Some of the bigger Cuyahoga, I'm finding is over 100. Summit is now brought their numbers up, and it's a real bidding war out there. So I still have a vacancy for that one. Yeah. And I'll keep trying.
All right, anything else, sir?
No, I thank you for
Thank you.
your
Thanks for
listening. Yeah.
Good seeing you, sir.
You too.
Yep.
Thank you for picking up the pieces of my building.
No worries.
I had pictures Sunday
Did you?
morning. Yes, I
A
did.
piece of marble fell off of the front of the building and onto the sidewalk. I'm glad nobody was walking by because those things weigh a lot.
Quite heavy.
I was surprised. I was really surprised.
You didn't hurt yourself or nothing picking them up.
No,
did
but I was out checking buildings, and I noticed it after the wind, and yeah.
We caught him on our surveillance video.
I did a little dance for him.
Well, you know what, the wind knocked that, there's a cigarette receptacle out of our front door,
Yeah.
right? And the wind knocked that over into the marble, and for some reason that marble was loose.
Yeah.
It hit the bottom of the marble, and the whole panel
Hit it
came
just
down
right.
across the sidewalk and shattered.
Wow.
So,
It did.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, luckily it was a Saturday. You were there Sunday
Sunday morning.
I
Yeah.
said, look at this, the commissioner out Sunday morning
Yeah.
checking our building out.
I was going to fall down and say it hit me, but I knew you had cameras.
So
All right.
replacing this would be a lot of fun too. That-
Yeah,
No.
you can tell the way they put it up there that that had to hit it just right.
It had to be loose.
Just
and
took it right out of the
What
middle.
concerns me is there's about 50 of those panels along the
Well, I was talking with maintenance
Were you?
about that because they're planning on taking one off the backside and rotate them and
Yeah,
get
that
it up
makes
front
sense.
because they, I think Mark and Sonny were the ones that glued that on there 20 years ago
Wow.
or whenever
it
that
was
was.
loose?
No, they put it up.
They put it up.
Well, that was there with the original building.
Well, okay, so then
Those
about 20
were-
years ago they had one. They said,
I think it might have been loose because when that building was built back in the 60s by Loomis, Jones, Wilson, Pull, and Griffith, who constructed the building in the 1960s, that marble, I remember talking to Paul Wilson about it, was imported from Italy. Those marble panels.
Yeah.
I mean, they did this building first class when they built it. And they brought that in from Italy, and it'd be impossible to match it.
Yeah.
You might get a black marble panel to look like it, but that was
Replica.
expensive.
Remember when Cleveland was redoing the schools and John Hay, I went across the street, that they made that building because all the steps were marble and they made it look like original. Guy in Aurora was a construction, so he just started a marble company and he was having it everything to him and then selling it back to the schools.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, so he did well. with
Well, I'm
that.
sure maintenance will do something.
Yep, they will. They were talking about trying to take some off.
That-
and
that
I was
makes
worried about
sense.
if they broke the one they were trying to take off.
That's what I think too, because it's
Yeah.
been up for, what, 60s? 50s?
Yeah, yeah. It's,
It might be really brittle and tough to.
I'd like to sit there and watch them
peel
while they
off.
do that and see how
And
many
then
they
it
break.
cracks,
I'd
and
break
then
them.
they go- And then when it cracks, they go, now we need two of them.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Thank you, Vic.
Thanks, sir.
All right, can we go to miscellaneous?
Yes. Let me love to read all these dates.
There you go.
Okay. Did
Thank you,
wanna-
Jackie.
Did you miss reading? Did you
No,
wanna
no,
read?
ma'am. Nope.
Okay.
I'm gonna drink my water.
I'll make a motion, the Board of Commissioners acknowledge the receipt of the March 22nd, 2023 notice from Faith Lyon and Teresa Nielsen, Portage County Board of Elections, indicating that the Board of Elections will be open to the public in preparation for the primary election on Tuesday, May 2nd, 2023 as follows. Monday, April 3rd, 4:30 to 9 p.m. 4:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. Tuesday, April 4th through Friday, April 7th, 4:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. Monday, April 10th through Friday, April 14th, 4:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. Monday, April 17th through Friday, April 21st, 4:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. Monday, April 24th, 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Tuesday, April 25th, 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. Wednesday, April 26th through Friday, April 28th, 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Saturday, April 29th, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Sunday, April 30th, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. Tuesday, May 2nd, 6:30 a.m. until 8 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. until election is complete. In addition, the Board of Elections will be open beyond regular business hours to conduct election official training on the following dates and times. Saturday, April 1st, 8:30 a.m. until training is complete, approximately 12:30 p.m. Tuesday, April 4th, 5 p.m. until training is complete, approximately 8:30 p.m. Thursday, April 6th, 5 p.m. until training is complete, approximately 8:30 p.m. Tuesday, April 11th, 5 p.m. until training is complete, approximately 8:30 p.m.
I'm not sure I got all that. Can you redo that?
I cannot.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Lord. Okay, I'll make a motion, the Board of Commissioners signs the Ohio Development Service Agency Office of Community Development signature cards for a request for payment and status of funds report for the calendar year 2023 as presented by the Regional Planning Commission.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Oh.
No, you got another part to that.
Yeah, I was
Sorry.
gonna say. Additionally, the Board of Commissioners authorize Anthony J. Badalamenti, President of the Board, to sign the signature certification form as presented by Regional Planning Commission.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Sabrina?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
I'll make a motion, the Board of Commissioners acknowledges receipt of the March 27th, 2023 certificate of the county auditor that the total appropriations from each fund does not exceed the amended official estimates of resources for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2023, as presented by the Portage County Auditor's Office.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Sabrina?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
The Board of Commissioners authorize Commissioner Anthony J. Badalamenti, President of the Board, to sign the Ohio Public Works Commission Appendix E disbursement request form and disbursement number 2 for the Ohio Public Works Commission project number DGZ10 Newton Falls Bridge 126 replacement as presented by the County Engineer's Office.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Sabrina?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
I'll make a motion, the Board of Commissioners acknowledge the acceptance of donations to the Office of the Portage County Dog Warden in the amount of $3,960 for the Spay Neuter Medical Fund Program.
Second.
Roll call.
Sabrina?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
I'll make a motion, the Board of Commissioners approves the appointment of Christopher James Yanish to the Tax Incentive Review Council for the City of Streetsboro.
Second.
Roll call.
Sabrina?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
The Board of Commissioners supports the application for Natural Area Land Conservancy and local sponsor for the local agricultural easement purchase program through the Ohio Department of Agriculture to permanently preserve approximately 117 acres of Winchell Farm located in Freedom Township.
Second.
Roll call.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Is there anything else to come for the board?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. That's it. I have a question. The certificates of achievement that we did